Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to present you a survey we conducted on a random sample of Greek population on the subject priority setting and resource allocation in the healthcare sector in Greece. It has long been recognized that healthcare expenditure has been continuously increasing worldwide over the last decades. This is shown in the following diagram by Health OECD data 2008. United States, Switzerland and Norway spend the highest amount of money on health expenditure. In economics, welfare is a key concept. One of the goals of the economic science is to maximize social welfare. As I showed you previously, plenty of factors contribute to the increase of health expenditure, including increase of the demand of health services, changes in the demographic profile of the population, higher standard of living, technological advancements, oversupply of medical services, and other. It is well known the fact that resources are limited, and as well as the resources for health, and they cannot satisfy people's needs and mostly people desires. So the priority setting and efficient resource allocation is required in order to maximize the benefit for the society. The identification of priorities as a part of the planning of the appropriate allocation of resources includes 4 stages, which are the assessment of available resources, resource evaluation, the determination of priorities, priority setting, the decision-making process, and the final allocation of resources. So several approaches have been applied in aiding this process, such as the assessment of the healthcare needs, the provision of core services, and the socio-economic evaluation of healthcare services. But none of these is completely satisfying. Our study aims to obtain the viewpoint of the Greek population on healthcare priorities and resource allocation. The method we used is a survey on a random sample of Greek citizens using a questionnaire. Participants were asked to allocate the available resources for health services in 8 specific healthcare and health-related functions as defined in the classification of OECD. These functions are services of curative care, services of rehabilitative care, services of long-term nursing care, ancillary services to healthcare, medical goods dispensed to outpatients, prevention and public health services, health administration and health insurance, and finally, capital formation of healthcare provider institutions. The functions were further classified into 3 groups, which are individual healthcare services, consists of 1 to 5 functions, which I showed you previously. Public healthcare services corresponds to the 6th and 7th function, and last, investment in capital assets refers to the 8th function. The data were stratified by gender, age, monthly family income, number of family members, and the city of residence. As far as the demographic characteristics are concerned, regarding to gender, 55% were females and 45% respectively were males. According to the age, the majority of the sample, 61%, belong to the category from 18 to 39 years old, 20% belong to the category 40 to 54% years old, and finally 19% were over 55 years old. The city of residence now, 46% live in Athens, contrary to 54% who live in other provincial cities of Greece. Regarding family members, 32% belong to a 3-member family with only 1 child, 25% belong to have no children, 22% have 2 children, 16% live alone, and finally 5% belong to a multi-member family with 3 children. Finally, the monthly family income, 22% earn up to 2,800 euros, 20% earn between 1,800 up to 2,200 euros, and as you can see, only 9% earn below 1,100 euros, and respectively over 3,500 euros.
Now, as you can see, these are the data, our data regarding the percentages of allocated resources in the 3 groups. Our results indicate that the public considers individual health care of highest priority, since it allocates 62.1% of total resources for those. Amongst these services, these are the 5 functions that actually correspond to individual healthcare services. Amongst these, curative care appears to be the most important one, since the percentage of allocated resources is significantly more compared to the other 4 groups. Only 26.2% of resources is allocated for public health care, and this consists mainly of services that relate to prevention and public health. And finally, only 11.7%, which is the same as this, is actually allocated to capital investment. Now, when data are stratified according to gender, we don't observe any significant differences between males and females. Similarly, we don't observe significant differences when data are stratified according to age. So all the different age groups allocate similar percentages of resources to the functions. Now, these are the data according to the city of residence. As you can see, there are some nice differences here. For example, you can see that people who live in Athens allocate more resources to individual healthcare services. On the other hand, those who live in other provincial cities actually allocate more resources to public healthcare. Now, when we look at the data according to the number of family members, there is some variation, but actually the most important difference is this one. So people who actually belong to multi-member families, and that is mainly parents with 3 children, appear to allocate more resources for capital investment compared to all the other groups. Finally, this is data according to family income. There are variations, but actually they are very minimal and they cannot be considered significant. Now, moving on to the conclusion, we can say that the public considers individual health care of highest priority, allocating 62.1% of total resources for these services. Amongst these, curative care is the most important, probably reflecting people's need for high-quality therapeutic management in cases of illness and disease. There are no significant differences in the percentage of allocated resources according to gender, age, and family income. However, respondents who live in Athens appear to allocate more resources to individual healthcare services. We believe that this is something that reflects the availability of healthcare services in Greece, even though Athens is the capital and actually most healthcare institutions are located in the city. The overpopulation limits the accessibility of the citizens to healthcare services, and this is probably reflected in this questionnaire. On the other hand, participants who live in other provincial cities appear to allocate significant more resources to public healthcare services. It is true that the national system of Greece has not developed public healthcare services to a satisfactory level, at least compared to the other European countries. And this obviously is more apparent in the province, and this is why citizens actually require that more resources are allocated there. Finally, respondents who belong to multi-member families seem to allocate more resources compared to all the other groups to capital investment, and this probably reflects their wish to ensure that in the future their children will have access to up-to-date, high-quality healthcare services. It is crucial to measure the public opinion when we try to allocate resources and set the priorities. However, we always have to take into consideration that sometimes the priorities set by the public are actually affected by their personal beliefs and their personal needs, and therefore careful consideration should be taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Provatopoulou. Are there any questions?
We talked about the capital, point 8, but
yes.
It was not discussed. What do you mean by capital? There was some noun behind it, but of course.
It is actually a function which corresponds to the percentage of resources that should be allocated for several services which include actually either equipment or probably hiring more people, more healthcare professionals, or renovating some healthcare institutions, stuff like that. Basically anything that can be considered as a capital asset in healthcare, in a healthcare institution. So basically, the question was how much money or what is the percentage of the resources for healthcare that people believe that should be allocated for new equipment or for...
Okay.
This is what it means.
The results, they show that the persons that you surveyed did not have very distinct opinions about the several possibilities. Well, public health or individual health, as you call it, that's 60% of the people use it.
No. It's not
to have it.
It's not 60% of the people who use it. From all the people,
62% of the
resources.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I did say it wrongly. But then the step lower, when you discriminate between the
yes.
several uses, it's almost a flat distribution.
Yes.
Does that not indicate that the people just do not know the differences and they just allocate everything equally among the 5 possibilities, or is there another reason?
Well, they don't allocate, actually they don't allocate equally because in all groups, and irrespective of how you stratify data, curative care always was given a the highest allocation. So amongst all healthcare institutions, curative care always comes first. So that means that basically this is what the public pays most attention to. They want to have proper services when they go to the hospital because they have a disease, they have something, they suffer, they are in pain. So curative care actually was the most important among almost all individual healthcare institutions, in all groups. Okay. So basically what it tells us is that it is the most important, and it does not really matter what is your age, or what you do for a living, or how much money you earn, or if you have children or not. Not significantly, at least.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next presentation is from Mr. Dimitris Antonoglou concerning the system remuneration of pharmacists in the countries of the European Union. Mr. Antonoglou.
Good morning for me. I'm Antonoglou Dimitris. I'm a graduate student in Administration of Health in the University of Piraeus. As I tell, the objective of our research is the remuneration system for pharmacists in the countries of the European Union. The countries